Welcome to the Gaggle, where we talk politics inside of Arizona and beyond. This week, Doug Ducey is bringing back the taxman. Representative Paul Gosar has angered many Democrats. But first, Don Shooter, once one of the most powerful state lawmakers down here at the state capitol, was epically expelled last week, and he didn't go quietly. In fact, he actually dropped the mic. Take us behind the scenes, Dustin.
Yeah, so he literally dropped the mic. It was a pretty dramatic ordeal. Earlier in the week, Speaker J.D. Mesnard had released a report that found evidence that Shooter had harassed multiple women over the course of many years. Originally, the Speaker said that he was just going to push to censure Shooter, was not going to push for his expulsion, but by Thursday morning, that had all changed. Right before the vote, Shooter, or several hours before the vote, Shooter sent out a letter basically questioning the veracity of that report, in asserting that another lawmaker had harassed a woman or another victim, and that had not come out in the report the way he wanted it to. After he sent that letter, J.D. Mesnard completely changed his mind and introduced a resolution for expulsion, and then they ultimately got the votes and pushed him out.
Yeah, and that set off, that letter that Shooter sent out set off a pretty dramatic and chaotic timeline leading up to the vote. There was a lot of red. There were some impassioned votes. What was up with all the red?
So that was a question we got from a lot of people on Twitter. That had nothing to do with the vote. It was actually Heart Health Day, and everyone was wearing red on that day just by coincidence. But aside from that, it was, a very dramatic day before the vote. Don Shooter was said to be roaming the halls of the House building, popping into other lawmakers' offices and saying things along the lines of, "It's a good day for a lynching, it's a good day for a hanging." That created a lot of fears. Representative Michelle Ugenti-Rita, one of the women who had accused him of harassment, the first woman who accused him, felt very threatened by that statement. That led Mesnard to go to Shooter's office, accompanied by a DPS officer, and remove firearms, guns that Shooter had in his possession. So just a very dramatic scene that culminated in that floor vote. And then on the floor, we had many dramatic speeches from lawmakers. We had Leila Alston, probably the longest serving current member of the House, stand up and say that it was one of the most difficult votes she's ever taken, on par with impeaching a governor. We had other lawmakers in tears, thanking women coming forward. We had some lawmakers say that they don't know if they even want to stay in politics, so just a very unusual, chaotic scene.
Another unusual kind of scene over at the governor's office. He has called for the rehiring of tax collectors over at the Department of Revenue. You covered this story back when he fired them. Why the reversal?
Well, apparently if you have auditors, you collect more money from people, and that helps run the government. So they laid off more than 100 people, actually about 130 in the Department of Revenue since Ducey's come into office. And that resulted in about an $80 million drop in tax collections from fiscal 16 to 17. So now in his new proposed budget, he wants to hire not all of those people back. He wants to hire about 25 folks. And he anticipates, and has put this into his budget, that would bring in about $30 million.
Politically speaking, what's the upside of this policy proposal?
Well, politically, it could be difficult because 2 years ago, this was part of the lean government. Let's pare back. Let's not overregulate people. Let's not have too fat of a bureaucracy. And now it's basically backtracking on that pledge because there was a giant drop in revenue.
Ron, Mr. Gosar, Representative Gosar, is under fire for some comments that he made regarding undocumented immigrants who may have attended the State of the Union. What's up with the backlash?
This is almost becoming a regular feature for Paul Gosar. He made some incendiary remarks last week just ahead of the State of the Union speech to ask that the Capitol Police remove and arrest anybody who is an undocumented immigrant before that speech. Several members in the Democratic caucus had invited Dreamers to attend and wanted to make a point of this issue that remains very much in contention on Capitol Hill. That remark was not well received, as you can imagine. On Tuesday, the Congressional Hispanic Caucus introduced a resolution to condemn Paul Gosar for his remarks asking for the arrests there. That was immediately shot down on the House floor, and Paul Gosar, of course, fired back with a measured and very careful statement showing restraint. No, not so much. He just let them have it again, saying this is a left-wing conspiracy to protect criminals and such. So Paul Gosar throwing fire into the air once again.
And he's in control of his Twitter account?
Seems to be.
Oh, interesting. Well, we'll keep watching it. Ryan, for our new segment, who hasn't called you back this week?
Who has not called me back this week? Gosh, since I moved to these nice offices at the Capitol, I get way more callbacks than when I was on East Van Buren. So I don't have anyone to call out this week.
I want to see if you can make some of my calls. Ron, who haven't you heard back from?
I'd like to hear from Paul Gosar, as it turns out. So, Paul, please.
I'm still waiting to hear from Michelle Ugenti-Rita, Representative Ugenti-Rita, and Brian Townsend, lobbyists, both named in the investigative report.
I was also going to say Michelle Ugenti. We've tried to talk to her several times related to the harassment report, so it'd be nice to hear back.
We'll see if she calls us. Well, thank you for joining us this week. See you next week.